Hello friends, today I'm going to tell you about the movie Spread. It begins with a demonstration of Nikki leaving an expensive house. The thought of how handsome he is runs through his mind. From his first day in Los Angeles, he dreamed of hanging out with women. And that's exactly what he did. That night, Nikki walks into a nightclub and runs into his future victim, Samantha. At first, she pretends not to want to talk to him, but Nikki's pressure was much stronger. A new day comes and Samantha has to go to work, but Nikki pretends to still be asleep. To his surprise, she doesn't kick him out, but rather gives him her card to buy himself some food. And while she's at work, he swims in the pool and tries to cook dinner. When she returns, he does his best to make Samantha feel like a queen. When asked what he does for a living, Nikki says he hasn't decided yet. For the next few days, everything repeats itself, but she is called to another city. Nikki manages to convince Samantha that he should stay home, all for the sake of a cool party to which his best friend Harry has been invited. Their conversation is interrupted by his ex-girlfriend Helen. Nikki is worried that she will realize that this house is not his and asks Harry to take her away. They are interrupted again, but this time Christina asks to see the house. Nikki uses this for show. Later, the friends are alone, and Nikki offers to spend the night in the next room. A new day comes, and Nikki invites her friend Emily to visit, who knows perfectly well what a manipulator and liar he is. But despite this, the show goes on. She suggests that they start a serious relationship, but Nikki refuses and simply takes her to a motel, not even realizing that Samantha has returned home ahead of schedule and finds them in the middle of something interesting. An argument breaks out between them, but Nikki manages to convince her to keep the relationship alive. While she's at work, Nikki goes to a cafe. Heather works there, but she is not like the others and rejects his advances. The guy doesn't want to stop, so he doesn't pay the bill and leaves his number just in case. Heather quickly finds him and orders him to pay the bill. Nikki offers to show the house, but she refuses. For the next few days, he can't stop thinking about Heather, which makes Samantha fade into the background. It occurs to him to ask a friend for help. He will pretend to be a rich businessman, and Harry will be his assistant. When she notices his expensive car, he only replies that he is facing a fine for parking in the wrong place. Nikki runs out of the cafe and does everything she can to avoid the fine, but obviously it doesn't help. But Heather gives him her number. That evening, Nikki tries to call Heather, which Samantha can clearly see. A new day dawns. Harry advises her to forget the waitress, but Nikki can't stop until she gets her way. The same day, Heather calls Nick back and invites him to dinner. During dinner, the girl received a phone call and had to leave. Not understanding what it was, Nick asks for an explanation, but Heather just leaves. Samantha accuses Nick of seeing someone, and since he denies it, she asks him to take her to the hospital and pick her up the next day. After driving her friend to the hospital, Nikki returns to the cafe, but finds that Heather no longer works there, and when she returns home, she finds her swimming in the pool. She apologizes for having to leave, but her brother has a rare disease and needs help. A new day dawns. Nikki takes Heather's key to park her car and sees a pair of cigars to his surprise. He is sure they belong to her boyfriend, so he orders her to get out. When he arrives at the hospital, the doctor tells him that Samantha needs to rest after her surgery. A few days later, Samantha notices that Nikki has stopped answering her calls. She is forced to break off the relationship. Before he leaves, he receives a call on his phone, and an angry Samantha throws him into the water. Homeless Nikki tries to enlist Harry's support, but after their quarrel, he is not going to open the door. Emily is also unwilling to let the manipulator into her home. In a desperate situation, he dials Harry's number and apologizes, offering to meet at the club. There he meets Sean. Seeing them talking to the girls, Nikki starts to feel uncomfortable and tries to stand up for them. Eventually, Nick is kicked out. Harry says that these girls are just dancers, to which Nikki replies that he shouldn't treat women like that. Harry calls this hypocrisy. In search of a new home, Nikki tries to sneak into the party, but is quickly kicked out. A new day dawns. Having collected the last of his money, he comes to the cheapest hotel. This life does not suit him. He will have to come to the most expensive hotel and choose a new victim. To his surprise, Heather is staying there. She reproaches the guy for his tastes, forcing Nick to admit that he has no money for housing and food, and this is the only chance to feel like a human being. Unexpectedly, Heather calls Nikki's current goal names, showing that she is just like him. Later, she invites him to her house, but he has to take into account that her neighbor is an addict. But she doesn't leave her room, confessing on the way that she has broken off relations with the owner of the car she was driving and now has a much more serious goal. The duo starts working as a team. Nikki agrees to help her find a new victim for a portion of the proceeds, and in the evening, there is a show, thanks to which they start dating. After an expensive dinner, Heather gives them a piece of foil and asks them to chew it with their food, under which pretext the duo refuses to pay. Although their relationship grows stronger every day, Heather continues to earn money, much to Nikki's dismay. While he was sleeping, she receives a package filled with rose petals. Nikki notices her in a rather depressed state, and when asked what happened, she replies that she called off the wedding. Nikki doesn't understand why she didn't say anything. She tells him that her fiancé was a very rich man who owns a company in New York, but Nikki is much more important to her. Nikki asks if her feelings are real, or if it's all part of the performance. Heather calls them sincere, because she chose him, even though Nick has no money. Nikki takes this as an insult and goes to the cafe, where he refuses all offers because he wants to start a new life with Heather. Before returning home, he finds a newspaper with job ads. There was a note on the table saying that Heather needed to return to New York and take care of a few things. Nikki immediately tries to call her, but no one answers the phone. A new day comes. He meets his old friend. Seeing that she's drunk, he offers to give her a ride home. But then Heather calls. She swears she didn't go to her ex's house, and then hears a woman's voice. Nikki tries to explain that he was just trying to help, but Heather thinks he's back at his old job and hangs up. Back at Heather's apartment, he tries to talk to her roommate, who suggests he fly to New York to propose to Heather. But there's a problem. Nick has no money, and Harry, who has heard his stories, helps him with that. Arriving in the city, Nikki goes to the address of the fiancé. Heather answers the door to the apartment. Nikki realizes that she is hurt and swears that nothing happened. She needs to realize that her life is not what she dreams of. Money doesn't bring happiness, but Heather refuses to go back. Nikki pulls out her engagement ring, showing that she's ready for more, but Heather replies that she's already married. At this point, Will enters the room. Heather pretends that Nikki is just a delivery man. The man gives Nick a few dollars, and he leaves heartbroken. When he returns to Los Angeles, he intends to rebuild his life by working on many jobs. One of the orders was for Samantha's house, who had already found a replacement for him. To save money, he convinced Harry to let him stay with him. Although he used to hate frogs, he now enjoys feeding them. This is the end of the movie. That's all for today. Subscribe and like if you want more videos like this.